Hi, I'm Jessica.
Hi, I'm Christeena.
And you're watching
Game of Tomes.
Today, we're going to be reviewing a book that we recently finished, and that is
Memoirs of a Geisha
by Arthur Golden.
And we buddy read this with Nicole over at who picked this book. We will link
good.
her channel below, and
Yes.
you should check her out.
Yes.
So, we're going to do a spoiler-free review, as always. I gave it 5 stars.
And I give it 4 stars.
Yo, I really enjoyed this.
It's really good.
I've never read this. Never.
No, I haven't
know
either.
a lot of people have read it, like, years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And we didn't even know what it was about.
All we knew is that people said it was really good. I've never read a book that's made me feel all of the emotions that I could possibly feel.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I loved about this was that the main character is just like, everything that she goes through, it was like, I didn't think I was that attached, but then I was like, you know, with everything that was going on, or I felt really bad, or, you know, I was really happy for her, or I was, like, really angry with her, and it was just, like, it really drew me in.
Yeah.
And, like, very quickly.
And I've never been, like, and when I said earlier that I've never felt all the emotions in a book, in one book, I think really it's, like,
they were so strong emotions, though.
That's right, and I've never felt, like, can I say, is it a spoiler to say that I felt at one point just like,
done with
protagonist, why?
Yeah,
you know?
no, that's fine. I think that's fine.
And yeah, I did feel kind of done. I was like, no.
Yeah.
But then I got back into it, and actually, you know, the next chapter was like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so this young girl in Japan is growing up in this very poor village, and her mom is sick, and her dad is old, like, very old. This is his second family. His first family has passed away, and her sister live with her parents, and her mom's going to die, and her father sells the girls to, they think, become adopted. The girls do. They think somebody's going to adopt us. But no, they end up being sold into servitude.
Yeah.
And our protagonist, Chiyo, gets put into an okiya, which is an all-female home where young girls are trained to become geisha. And then our story takes off from there. Yeah?
Yeah, and it actually spans, I think she was like 9 or 11 when it starts.
9, I think.
And I think she's in a very old age when it ends.
Yeah.
But most of it does follow, like, her journey in becoming a geisha and everything that has to do with that. And it's actually really interesting because it also takes place during World War II.
Yeah.
And so it does touch on that, and it is fiction, but there is truth in it. And so it's kind of, we thought it was really interesting to get kind of a little bit inside Japan's point of view during the war and things like that. And we really enjoyed that. And Arthur Golden actually interviewed different geisha, mainly one, and so he came up with a work of fiction based off of her life as a geisha. Well, she actually...
He never actually said that he didn't say it was based off of her life.
Well, in the back it says that he used it as, he used her story as background.
He said this, the main character, and her story are my own inventions. So, the historical facts of geisha's day-to-day life in the 30s and 40s, however, are based on extensive research, and I'm indebted to one individual above all others, and he gives her name and how she opened her home to him and corrected any misconceptions he had about geisha life. Okay,
so
there was, she filed a lawsuit against him saying that she never agreed to have her name released. And he says, well, actually, we did have an agreement. She sent in a letter.
He, like, video recorded. He asked if he could tape their interviews, and she said, yeah, because he didn't want to misinterpret, because she was speaking Japanese, of course, and he did, but
language.
And he said that she had also sent him a letter, basically asking him to put her name out there even more. Don't know who's right or wrong. They ended up settling outside of court, from what I have read about. So
part of another factor in this is that part of being a geisha is like it's like shrouded in secrecy, and people are not supposed to talk about it.
Well, and because you also entertain very higher level men, like military men,
right.
government men, businessmen, politicians, and so it's a very like hush hush thing that you're not supposed to talk about.
Right.
And so anyway, she wrote her own book, and it is called Geisha, A Life, and we are planning to buddy read that with Nicole as well, probably in September, it looks like, because this was an excellent book, and it was very well written.
Oh my gosh, beautiful language.
Beautiful. There were parts that it was like poetry.
Yes.
It was so
vivid.
Yeah.
And it was in a world that we had never experienced before or have no frame of reference for, and it was like I was put into the story.
Yeah, it was very it was beautiful. Gorgeous. And so that's not to say that we enjoyed this book thoroughly, but we also do want to read hers as well.
Yeah. Part of the reason that I like this book so much is that it made me want to educate myself on Japanese culture and geisha life.
And I agree, because Japanese culture is never anything I've ever researched or read about or anything, and reading this, I was like, whoa, like it talks about Japan being in a depression, and we never thought about Japan being in a depression.
Right.
And so it was just kind of eye-opening, even though it's a work of fiction. And it definitely intrigued us to want to learn more about the culture.
Absolutely.
This is about a geisha who entertains men, and she's very young at some points in the book, and the men are much older. And there's a lot of sexualization of women in this book. And there are a few scenes that are a little more detailed. And so if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, and it made us uncomfortable reading it at parts. But it's an excellent book. But be aware that there are situations like that in here.
I like it.
Okay, cool. So I think that's it. I mean, if you haven't picked this up and you've been on the fence about it, definitely pick it up. It's worth it.
I agree. When you play the game of tomes,
you read or you die.
Come be our friends. Our social media links will be in the description below.
And we hope you're reading a great book.
Bye.
Oh my God, I really like that.
Yeah.
I think we did excellent.